Good evening, Uganda. My name is Patrick Amara, and tonight I bring you a guest from the southwestern part of Uganda. He's a prince in the Rwenzururu kingdom, a former minister of state for defense, a former state minister for agriculture, and a former member of parliament representing Bugandera County in Rwenzururu district. He's a man of substance, and I'm talking about the Honorable Christopher Kibanzanga. Honorable Christopher Kibanzanga, thank you so much.
You're welcome, Kamala.
Thank you for joining us. And I've just been reading somewhere that you have filed a case in the office of the Inspectorate of Government of collusion to defraud, because you petitioned the election of the Honorable Acrobat, and I understand you lost that case, but now you have that letter, the Inspectorate of Government, and alleging there has been some kind of collusion. What are you saying?
Thank you very much, Mr. Kamala. Good evening, dear viewers, and good evening, Kamala. And all of you behind the cameras, good evening. Maybe before that, let me have something to comment on the events of the last 2 weeks. The country lost the Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament, Right Honorable Jacob Bolanya, who was my friend. He joined the parliament when I was there. I had spent there 5 years. I think he joined in 2001. I found him a very brilliant man, a very intelligent man, a friendly person. We lost him.
It is a big loss for the country.
It's a big loss for the country. It's a big loss for my generation. Because in him, and the way he was climbing the ladder of influence, the ladder of politics, in him you could see a real transition from those who were born in 1940s to those who were born in 1960s. And really, for us, for my generation, to raise a leader of such a caliber, it may take us the next 50 years. So my heartfelt condolences to the country, my heartfelt condolences to the president, to the new Speaker of Parliament, and to his family. As we are coming to terms with the death of Honorable Jacob Bolanya in Bundbujo, I also lost a lawyer who was the registrar of NRM, Electoral Commission, Mr. Chifunga Robert. We lost him in very dehumanizing circumstances. Actually, he was murdered. And we have faith in the intelligence systems of the country. Maybe they will bring the perpetrators to book. Back to your topic. Of course, the elections of last year, January, you know the story. I lost the elections, and I thought it wasn't free and fair. I went to court and petitioned the Electoral Commission, and of course the one who was declared victorious. But I lost both the election and
the court case.
The court case. And of course, costs were put on me. First of all, Honorable Acrobat, and then the Electoral Commission. Before I knew it, Honorable Acrobat with his lawyers and his court beliefs had secured the court order to impound all my property. I asked, how much is the money and how did it come about? It was even taxed in our absence, 300 million.
300 million?
300 million. But we appealed to the resident judge. And I think the resident judge has given us a sea of hope, of relief. He has significantly reduced that amount to the manageable levels. I'm yet to meet my lawyers and see whether we can still contest it, but it is manageable. Now, I remained with the Electoral Commission. Before I knew it, the Electoral Commission had also submitted the bill of costs to the tune of also 299 million. How did it come about? How? Is it within the law? When we checked with my lawyers, I discovered it wasn't within the law. People were just playing mafia games. But that's not the point. We can also appeal those costs because the precedent has been set from the previous costs of honorable acrobat. So it's a question of appealing the resident judge. It will also come to normal. The point is, the Electoral Commission using a private lawyers to launch a claim of bill of costs to the tune close to 300 million. The question is, did you go through procurement process to solicit for the services of this private lawyer?
So the question that you are putting to the Inspector of Government, how did the private lawyers come to handle the case of the Electoral Commission? You want to know whether due process was followed.
Exactly.
Okay, that's going to be answered. But I want to go back to Bugandera. How does a darling of the NRM government, the one who had just been welcomed there, a prince in the Rwenzururu kingdom, former State Minister for Defense, State Minister for Agriculture, whose constituency, Bugandera, I'm told, was actually carved out for you, lose an election?
Point of correction, it wasn't carved out for me. In fact, I am the second member of parliament. The first member of parliament for Bugandera County was Muzei Chiregeya Mate. For me, I am the second, so it wasn't carved for me. It is a constituency like any other constituency. But your point is, with all of those, all that influence, how did you lose how did you lose the election? I may not answer that question now, today. I may not answer it. Because I will answer it next time, but not now.
Do you feel that the people of Bugandera had really reached a point that their son, who's not just an ordinary son, but a prince in the Rwenzururu kingdom, that had lost the confidence that their son can actually represent them?
Through the popular vote, I did not lose an election. And if you visit Bugandera today, you will attest to this. I did not lose an election. An election was just engineered. The collusion between the one who was declared a winner and I think the Electoral Commission, and so many players that came in between. And that's why I am asking Electoral Commission, instead of putting all that bill against me, you look at my petition, because Uganda is still in, the democracy in Uganda, especially electioneering exercise, is still growing. We are still developing it. If someone puts a petition, you look at his petition. It shouldn't be a punishment. Use it as an opportunity to improve.
You know, I'm asking these questions. Perhaps I wouldn't have been able to ask an ordinary person, because look, you joined NRM.
Yes.
NRM has a financial war chest when it comes to elections. You are Minister of State for Defense, Minister of State for Agriculture, and the Honorable Kibanzanga, that's your ancestral land. This is the place where your father was fighting for the freedom of the Bakonjo. And you are a prince. Your brother is the king. I mean, you have a lot of clout. How can you not bring that clout to bear?
It is the same question. I don't need to answer today. I don't want to answer it today, but I will answer it next time when we appear on this.
So now you want to answer that? Well, even that no answer.
But of course,
did you make an error of judgment to transition from the Forum for Democratic Change to the NRM? Have you reached a level to say, look?
Not at all. There was no error, and I don't regret it. Because at the time I joined the NRM, Rwenzori was at the verge of rebellion. I don't regret it. I don't regret it. We saved a lot of lives. We saved the mountain. We talked to our people. We convinced our people. And we weighed the options. Do we continue with opposition or we cooperate to save the mountain? And this is what we did.
So your cooperation to save the mountain seems to have cost you your political position and political clout.
Well, as you have said, you belong to a cultural institution. For us, it's not about the elective position. It's about the influence of an individual over the people. And I can assure you, we might have lost the election, but we still have this influence to advise our people, shape the opinion.
You know, I'm asking these questions because some weeks back I met a young man in Kasese. With all respect, he said, the Honorable Kibanzanga is a sellout. Why? Because he joined the NRM, and this is a stronghold of the opposition. So we are not supporting like we used to. Because, so did you find that maybe you have dined with the people you shouldn't have dined and wined with?
No, not at all, not at all. Maybe it is a misjudgment on the part of that young man. He may not have the background of what was transpiring in the Renzori region. Under normal circumstances, the Renzori region needs to cooperate with the government if we are to overcome some of our challenges. Kamala, you may not believe this, but this is the fact. There comes a time when you make a judgment and make the right decision, no matter how many people support it, no matter how many people are against it, but make a judgment as a leader. Today, I repeat this statement. Today, we need to cooperate with an establishment rather than opposing the establishment. I stand at that ground.
Yeah, you seem also in the beginning to have said there was some kind of a mafia network that could have disorganized you. Who are the mafias?
Of course, Kamala, you will know that the scholars of human behavior, the scholars of animal behavior, they find a common characteristics, common trends. When a bull joins another herd, the initiation is a fight. The initiation is a fight.
So you're meaning
now,
you as the bull of the FDC joining NRM, the initiation in the NRM was a fight.
The initiation is a fight. And what I am going through right now, what you call these mafia gangs around Tibandanga Christopher, it's an initiation. You either fight on and they get to use it to your style of work, or you run away and become isolated, or you own the hard and they run away.
You join NRM, you are welcomed by the chairman of the party. So who is fighting you? Who was fighting you? He actually gave you a ministerial position on 2 occasions.
The NRM is a mass party. It's a big party. And in a mass party, there are centers of influence, centers of power, centers of authority. You find them at a local level. You find a local chief who does not even understand the ideology of NRM, even the principles of NRM. Is a king in his own, and he will do things that even the chairman at a national level doesn't know. So these are small fights. They start with your village, they start with your district, and they come at a regional level.
Honorable Kibanzanga, are you suggesting that you have been fought by the system?
I won't say the system, but individuals within the system.
What is their problem with you?
Of course, as I told you, a person who had opposed the NRM for close to 20 years because of our issues in Renzori, and all of a sudden he joins the NRM, and all of a sudden he's a minister of agriculture, all of a sudden he's a minister in charge of veterans in defense. There is some disgruntlement within those people you found there. It is understandable. It's human nature.
That Honorable Christopher, who has been fighting NRM, FDC, joins, and immediately after joining,
he's there.
You're made minister. Some big boys in the party are not happy.
It's human nature. It's human nature.
So people fighting you are not necessarily LC1 or LC2 people. These are big boys in the NRM.
Of course, they network with the other networks. And you know, I joined the NRM in 2016, I think. And immediately I became a minister. And then when you join a group, there must be a time for you to understand the dynamics of that group. But because I became a minister, I was an MP in Kampala, it did not give me time to understand what are the dynamics within NRM. And even I'm still surviving because I had a picture of what NRM exactly is. because we had
For somebody
we were
who
in the
fought-
movement.
For somebody who fought the party for 20 years and joined it in 2016, and for just less than 4 years, you start getting all these fights. You know, you're being diplomatic and civil, but you are a frustrated man, aren't you?
Kamala, I am not a frustrated man. I am in Renzori, I'm in Kasese, I'm in Bundubujo. I am
You are
standing
being
on my...
frustrated for your party. Your party has not served you well, has it?
No. I have no claim over the party, and it does not owe me anything. They welcomed me, they made me a minister, I lost an election, I went to court. Court is different from the party. Court is different from the party. And they have not put me to a disciplinary committee that I committed some crimes within the party. I still believe what I'm going through, it is the game of individuals trying to see who's this Twanzanga. Let's initiate him. The most important thing is that keep him in there. When you see a problem, bring it to surface. Let the leadership, the top leadership of the party, get it to know that there is a problem. Maybe in so doing, that problem may be resolved.
How did you come to actually cross? Because, you know, FDC and NRM are polar opposite parties. Their ideologies are different. I mean, their viewpoints are different. They just don't mix. You know, how? You know, there are people who would think, to say, no, you know what? The Honorable Kibanzanga is not actually following a political ideology, but maybe
Kamala,
a grocery ideology.
Kamala, let me tell you, in politics, there's no fixed positions. And there is no congruent wall between NRM and FDC. There's no congruent wall. These are colleagues. See them sitting in the parliament. Right now, the majority of the people now who have attained the positions of leadership, who were them in the Forum for Democratic Change. Yes, we are different. We were different political parties. We were in different political parties. But NRM wasn't our enemy. And I want to think that FDC is not an enemy of NRM.
Yeah, because somebody watching
it
you
is a question
from
of
Kasese, from Bundubujo, and from Kabarole in the Rwenzururu region, they're wondering, this man who was as inspiring them in the political direction where the country should be, what is it that really changed so much for him to join the very people he fought against for 20 years?
I can still inspire you within the NRM. And even I call upon them. I call upon them. They're still young people. We are still young. Let's join the NRM. Whatever is wrong within NRM, let us correct them within NRM. So ideologically, we are not so different.
But you know, for example, the people of Kasese have been hurting. You remember in 2016, almost at the very moment when you appointed State Minister for Defense, when there were massacres
for agriculture.
Yeah, I mean, State Minister for Agriculture, when there were massacres at the palace of your brother, the king, almost 100 people were killed. I wonder how you would be able and walk with your conscience clear that the government you serve is being accused by the people in Kasese for massacring their people.
Oh, Kamala, we regret that incident. And that's why I told you, Kamala, there's a question you have asked. I will answer it next time, strategically. What happened? The situation you are describing in the palace and in the Renzori sub-region is regrettable. It's regrettable. Nobody takes pride out of it. Why do we walk with pride and with our head high? Because, Kamala, you know very well, from 2014 incidents in Kanyamurima and Bundubujo, we tried our level best to make sure that another disaster does not happen. At least we warned the people. At least we persuaded the people not to go to the extreme because it wasn't necessary. The issues by that time were resolvable. We could resolve them in an air-conditioned room like this one. But we are not listened to. And I regret we failed. So why do we walk with our head high? Because we did not betray our people. We told them what was coming and we persuaded them not to. In fact, we were standing between the state and our people. Maybe the only regret is that we did not manage, we did not succeed.
But you know, at one point your people could actually see you standing with the state and they are accusing the state of harassing and killing them.
Well,
Those are the allegations.
Well, that could depend on an individual. On an individual.
Will come back to haunt this nation unless we come back. They will, because people were killed in a palace.
Kamala.
People died in a palace.
Kamala.
It will never be swept under the carpet, sir.
It will not. But Kamala, in crafting a nation, and I don't know why it has taken long for Uganda to develop into a nation, to grow into a nation. But in crafting a nation called Uganda, you may not avoid these incidents. Because in this country we still have sentiments of nationalistic nature. Nationalistic nature, what do I mean? We still have sentiments of Kamala saying, I am Mtoro, Mtoro is ours. I am Muganda, Buganda is ours. I am Mkonzo, Rwenzori, which is ours. Those sentiments are still there. They are still there. Therefore, we must move very cautiously and recognize the fact that in crafting a nation called Uganda, for Uganda to be united, some of these incidents may not be avoided. And some of these pains, we may bear them. But the most important thing, when it happened, I came out, I said, guys, let us recognize that these things have happened. Let us open up a new chapter and move on as a country. This is still my stand up to today, from 2014 up to today.
It must have been a very difficult position.
We should go. Of course, it was a very
difficult position for you to be in.
It was a very,
you have your millions of the
Kamala,
people.
it was a very difficult situation, but difficult situation requires leadership. When you're a leader, you cannot simply go away because the situation is very difficult. It requires leadership to think, to come up with strategies, and how to move forward, because it has happened. Do you keep yourself in the past because these things have happened? No, we have got to move forward. It happened. It was a country against itself. I mean, at the end of it all, you may feel, whom do we blame? Do I blame my radical younger men? Do I blame the UPDF? These radical young men are part and parcel of the Ugandan society. UPDF itself is part and parcel of the Ugandan society. So it is a country against itself. Do we kill ourselves because of that? No, 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 no. Let's sit around table and chat the way forward.
So now, as a chief prince, have the elders in the Rwenzori, you know, buried the hatchet and forgotten the past, and they are moving on? Or maybe there's a traditional mechanism whereby these sins can be atoned, and then they are not, there's a way how it can be handled. Are they forgetting?
Kamala, you have diverted me.
I have, because you have
me too far from what brought me here. But nonetheless, let's try, because that's our
elders in the Bakonja community.
Kamala, that's our region. What affects us there affects you somehow. Directly, actually.
That's my home.
That's our home. The question is it solved? Is it over? Kamala might say, not yet. What you see is an aspirin. But we have not.
You have given the problem the painkiller.
The painkiller, but we have not solved the problem. So because 80 young people calling themselves the royal guard are still incarcerated in Jinja. The king cannot move. He is still here, can't go to his kingdom. So the quietness you see, it requires us, and you, Kamala, and me, people who are born in that area, to go and sit with those elders and then ask a question. How do we go over this thing? How do we solve this thing? Where do we get a permanent solution to this challenge?
I don't know, how did we reach here? Your grandfather, Chief Ruhandika, was a peacemaker.
You know him.
Yes, I've read about you.
Very good.
In fact, Fort Portal City, one of the streets is named after your grandfather.
Ruhandika, yeah, on my mother's side.
Ruhandika Street. Ruhandika was a peacemaker. Ruhandika was a man where people could go and take refuge into his home.
Now you are taking
in the mountains.
You are taking me too far to the history. Ruhandika was a chief maker.
Was a peacemaker.
A peacemaker. Rwandeka related very well with other communities. And that's why he has a road
In Fort Portal.
in Fort Portal. But Rwandeka felt betrayed by Omukama when he was dismissed from being Omnamasos. And that's why the problem started.
So now,
And that's why the problem started.
but do you, as the brother to the king, pay him a visit in Kampala? Do you talk about this?
Sometimes we do, sometimes we talk. We pay visits to each other. Sometimes we talk over these things.
So, but for the time you're State Minister for Defense and State Minister for Agriculture, he's been more or less, under house arrest of sorts.
Oh yeah.
Because he can't go to his kingdom. And so what will it take, in your view, for normalcy to return to that area, for the king to reign in his kingdom?
During that time, I think we asked the president to investigate and interrogate exactly what happened. Salim Saleh was in the region. General Salim Saleh was in the region for almost 6 months. And he came up with an idea that definitely what he had found in Renzori cannot be issues of court. We should find another mechanism to resolve the standoff. And they came up with a committee which investigated these matters. Recommendations were made. And I think he submitted his report to the powers that be with a very good recommendation, and we are waiting. Some of the recommendations have already been implemented. Like, yes, Nyabaore can go to the region and start.
That's the queen.
Working, yes, that's the queen, start working with the communities. Yes, the house of the king was destroyed beyond repair. Government can buy another piece of land and put up a building. It has been done. Yes, you cannot have all 200 people incarcerated. Let there be screening. Screening is going on during elections. I think in January, 143 royal guards were released. They went back to their community, and I think they are still reporting to the courts in the various areas. And so far it is 1 year, there is no problem. So the screening of other 80, I think, is going on, so that really finally a solution will be found.
All right, Honorable Christopher Kibanzanga, hold on to your points, sir, because we're going to take a break, and on the spot we'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara. My guest tonight is Honorable Christopher Kibanzanga, who is a prince in the Rwenzururu Kingdom, former Minister of State for Defense and former Minister of State for Agriculture. You know, when you were a State Minister for Defense, did you really feel, and I'm asking this with a lot of politeness, that you are running the show as a State Minister for Defense, or you're just keeping the position? Actually, decisions are being made somewhere else.
I was a Minister of State in the Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs. And specifically, I was in charge of the veteran docket. I was only there for 1 year. But even for that 1 year, the report that my predecessor handed over to me, he had started some projects. We were able to realize some of those projects, like the documentation of the veterans, especially in Western Nile, we did. And if you are just a sponge there, you may, like the request of 91 billion so that we started paying the veterans, we did. demobilization, we continued with the mobilization of veterans so that we can put them in circles to benefit from other government programs. We did. The documentation of the veterans in our region, Renzori veterans, including those non-combat fellows like the Rwenzururu people, we did that documentation, and we discovered they are to the tune of 900 or something. We did. So there is some work that we did, but we were there for only 1 year, and that 1 year had a lot of challenges. There was COVID, where we could do nothing, and of course we were in an election. So to answer your question, I was doing some work, and I had all the powers within the docket, within the framework of the docket.
I'm asking this? Because
to make decisions.
Some of your campaign managers have had during the election in Bugandera that were actually finding it difficult to deal with the policemen, with the soldiers. Somehow they felt maybe even the soldiers were fighting their candidate, and yet the soldiers are supposed to be saluting you. So I'm wondering.
My escorts and my bodyguards were friendly people to the Bugandera people, and you cannot attribute
No,
that.
I am saying senior military officers and senior police officers, the allegation that did not work in your favor, even though they shouldn't have gotten involved in politics.
Oh, they fought. I don't know their reasons why they did it. I don't know.
So I'm wondering, how can senior military officers be working against their state minister, the man whom they should be saluting?
I don't know. I am yet to interrogate their problems. What was their problem? Some of them, and well, not all of them. Some of them, individuals. And most of them are born from that area. It could have been an issue of, our area, tribalism. It could have been an issue of tribalism. I don't remember an officer from other areas campaigning to Rwanda, but the officers we are talking about specifically, they are born from that village, from my village.
So it took those, what I've gathered has some truth in it, that senior officers,
senior officers
fought you in the election.
Oh yeah.
Were they working for somebody else?
I'm yet to establish. I'm a very democratic person. When you lose an election, you don't interrogate.
But as a state minister, you raised you called the chief of defense forces.
There some incidents where I called their commanders. I said, but what is happening? And something did not work out.
At that moment, the deputy CDF is the son of the soil. At that moment.
What did you want him to do? To do something outside the structure because he's a son of the soil? No, he's a professional officer. I wouldn't have expected him to do certain things outside the structure of UPDF simply because he wants to save a brother.
So the election in Bugandera did not go your way, but also because of those stumbling blocks brought by senior military officers, one or two, who could have fought
officers, even within our politics. Even within our politics as NRM.
You see, people who were in FDC for many years, like you, and crossed the party line and joined NRM, are eating big now. In fact, the Parliament of Uganda is in the hands, you could say, of former FDC stalwarts. The Right Honorable Anita Mong, the Right Honorable Thomas Tayebwa. But for them, when they crossed, it seems they have been embraced fully. But when the Honorable Kibanzanga comes, he's finding people fighting him. What explains that?
No, really, every area has its own dynamics. Renzori has its own dynamics. Bukedia has, Ankole, Mitoma has. Every area has its own dynamics. And every person has his own approach to certain situations. But what I know is that there is internal, I was reading stories against the current speaker. In fact, this year, you could see the fight. But of course, people have different approaches. Me, when you fight me in such a manner, I may invoke my royalty in me and just watch. I may suppress the politics in me and invoke the royalty in me and just watch. I say, even if you are fighting.
Take your time listening more than talking.
Listening. more than talking. And you say, by the way, I have a natural influence. You may have the elective position, but I can use my natural influence to influence the decision making in this area. So I know that there is an internal fight against those friends of mine, but for them being what they are, they invoke the politics in them, and they find themselves belonging and fitting.
It appears, Honorable Kibanzanga, that FDC has been a very good training ground of serious leaders in this country.
Oh yeah, remember the background is from NRM. FDC was an offshoot of NRM. And you believe me, NRM during the Bush War trained and developed leaders. And these are the leaders who called some of us when we were young. And we joined the FDC. And they continued with the nurturing, with the grooming. And of course, we appear to have a different thinking.
So when you are within the NRM, and there are quite a number of you who joined NRM, including the Right Honorable Anita Monk, who just joined very recently, by the way, and now she's, I suppose, third in the hierarchy of senior leadership.
Number three.
Number three in the line of leadership in the country. Can we say really that you have gotten off your mind that FDC mentality?
Maybe I meant at the FDC. I am a founder member of FDC.
So,
I'm a founder member of FDC. We mentored it. It's our child. In the process of mentoring, I also mentored because they gave me a lot of positions. And when I went to the NRM, I found myself in these real positions. It mentored me. But now, I call upon our friend that it appears there is a real transition within NRM of younger people coming up to reach at the helm of NRM and then influence things in the direction we thought we should move. Let's join. We can still influence and correct things within NRM. For instance, if the Right Honorable Anita Monk, Right Honorable Taiwa Thomas, thought that Parliament was not taking the right direction, what stops them from engineering and leading Parliament to take the right direction?
Having said that, it reminds me...
Yesterday I was watching them in the chair. Yesterday I glued myself on TV because I wanted to see the eulogies. The eulogies in the memory of my friend. I see them steering the house very well. But there's something cropping up, of which I would visit them and talk to them and say, guys, you know, Parliament is the house of record. In 20 years from now, those who will do research on the evolution of democracy in Uganda will read that record, will read those hazards. I don't know whether it is a rule of the 2 minutes. Is it a rule now in the rules of procedure of Parliament, the 2 minutes?
Because there are just too many people. If you're going to give 2 minutes, 2 minutes, times 500.
We should borrow a leaf from Wapaka Blue. You remember Wapaka Blue?
Yes.
Although members of Parliament in that chair we are equal, some are more equal than others. In terms of what? In terms of experience. In terms of the committees that they chair. In terms of age. Others are younger, they need to learn. And for instance, a woman like Cecilia, if you give 2 minutes, and then you cut her speech short at an introduction, what will happen to those students who will read those hazards? And what does a younger member of Parliament learn from Cecilia, Honorable Cecilia? For us, we got this experience. We learned from members of Parliament like Benwacha, like Okulopak, like Okelokelo, Winnie Byanyima, John Kazora. And Wapakabulu knew that this group of members of parliament, they are masters of parliamentary debate. These ones are learning. You cannot be a master on every issue in the parliament. If it is illegal, then you would allow Ben Watchers, the Katundus, to influence others. If it is about environment, then you return the man. Submit and influence. But now this rule, the 2-minute rule, first of all, it is killing that parliament, it's killing research, it's not motivating younger people. And I could see younger people in parliament, young, vibrant, highly educated, with issues, but they have no forum.
It is actually the late Honorable Jacob Olanya, who was always telling Parliament, and saddened by the lack of seriousness, and you could see the level of debate being low, and he was always questioning.
You know,
was always telling them not to talk without doing research.
With a 2-minute rule in that parliament, even it kills your motivation to research. You take 2 days to do research, you have your 5 points on an issue, but even before you reach the first point, 2-minute rule. What makes you to go back to the library and research for 2 hours?
But one of the reasons that parliament is too big.
It is too big. Not everybody has got to talk on an issue. Not everybody is an expert on every issue.
But if the people of Bugandera and wherever and Mwenge South don't see you standing and talking,
no,
tomorrow
you can't be in that parliament for 1 year without having an issue where you have an expertise coming up. Even if it doesn't come up, what do we use it to do with the Wapakabulo? Even if it's an issue that you don't know, you go to the library and you do research. You talk to a research assistant to help you to do research. And then you compile your 5 issues, and then you go to Wapakabulo. That on this motion, I want to submit. He says, are you sure? I said, yes. You have your facts? He said, yeah, you know. I have issues. And then he would give you a 10 minutes.
So okay, now let me.
That's how the country.
I want to agree with you that
that's how the country recognized the late speaker. It was during the sale of
Uganda Commercial Bank.
Uganda Commercial Bank. The guy went and researched with his oratory skills and the mastery of English. He went and researched. I think he had his 10 points. He went to the speaker, he said, I want to submit. No, they went to the speaker with an andala. One was a mover, one was a seconder. And by that time, the mover of the motion would be given 20 minutes. The seconder, 10 minutes. The guy he talked is when the country realized that there is a lead in this young man. But now with the 2-minute rule,
okay,
it's very difficult to identify a leader.
Now that you have the Right Honorable Anita Mong and the Right Honorable Thomas Tayebwa, all of you nurtured by FDC, maybe things can be different. But which reminds me, a book I was reading recently, it's called Eli Cohen, Our Man in Damascus. The Israelis were fighting the Arabs, and then somebody embedded himself into present-day Damascus, which is Syria, to study the Syrian defense forces. And later, a man called Eli Cohen was giving intelligence to the Israeli government, and that's how they were able to subdue. So you, as FDC, when you look at former FDC, do you think former FDC, if FDC looks at Tayebwa and Anita Mong, they can also say, our lady in the bus, our lady in the bus, our man in the bus?
No. They are not doing espionage. They are not doing espionage. They have these positions. We are given to them by NRM by identifying and recognizing their abilities to do the work and to do the work for this country. I don't think, and nobody should think that they are doing espionage. Some people keep on writing reports, even saying Chimazanga is doing espionage. Chimazanga is work. Like this election, there is a report they gave to the president that Chimazanga is responsible for the rise of NUP in Bugandera, in Condolences. And report was received. In order for people to destroy, they will write all those sorts of things. But Kamala, I don't want you to hold that view that these people could be doing.
No, I'm all asking. No. You know, there could be somebody.
I'm saying no. They would be doing espionage against themselves. They have now an opportunity to build an institution of parliament, very vibrant, to stand the test of time and make a pro-people law. I heard them yesterday say this is a pro-people parliament. They have an opportunity to make a pro-people parliament and make a pro-people legislation.
So you are appointed minister, and you're welcome to the party. You worked for NRM. Do you have a sense, or do your people, those who supported you, have a sense that our man has been more or less chewed to pulp and then discarded?
No, not at all. I would like to tell them that he's still alive. Still alive and kicking and well. And a political animal in this case. It is the politics in me that has not been removed. I may not have those positions, but the politics in me is still alive and kicking. The leadership in me is still that solid leadership that I will make a decision at the right time, and quite often I've made the right decisions in the Renzori sub-region. By the way, I started becoming an ally of NRM for a long time. Because for me, I make a difference between the normal politics and rebellion. When it comes to rebellion, I serve the interests of the country. Yes, when it comes to normal politics, who leads what? I serve the interests of the country, the interests of my party.
Who is responsible for having planted that radicalism among the Renzori, where we got the people called the Kilomira Mutima?
Some people say, they are responsible.
Grandchildren of Ruhandika, Chief Ruhandika.
Some people say, and they are choosing us. They say, if you want Renzori to be very peaceful, deal with the Vazikuru Ruhandika. Meaning us. But little do they know we inherited the problem. We are not the problem. If they examine it properly, we are victims. We are victims. This is son-in-law of Ruhandika called Isaiah Mucharan, who's my father. At the time he started his things, I wasn't there. At the time he walked out of the Rukurat of Toro, Charles wasn't there. I wasn't there. We inherited the problem. And the biggest challenge is that the people of Renzori see in us the embodiment of their aspirations, the embodiment, the reflection of their vision, of their mission, of where they want to go. My only prayer is that we should live up to that challenge. What do the people of Renzori, the mountain people, want for now?
You know,
is it opposition or cooperation? Is it rebellion
in the 60s,
or peace?
I can believe in the 60s, Isaiah Mukirane and Mopalia and Kasoro and other people, and the Kawamara, I think they had legitimate concerns to fight for. But right
that's now, why we shouldn't be sacrificed for it. Legitimate concerns.
Yeah, but now, when people come in and say, you know what, we want the Yira Republic, it's a different thing.
Kamala, those incidents are regrettable. Those incidents of the Yira,
you know, the Yira Republic, or that idea, they even had state paraphernalia, or you know, the national anthem, some kind of a flag, money, currency printed, and you know, and they knew the territory involved.
Kamala, those incidents and that chapter in our cultural evolution is regrettable. Is regrettable. And where we have reached so far, we can resolve that impasse, that standoff. It's regrettable. It should not have manifested itself at the time it did.
Do you know that people high up in the Renzururu kingdom had actually picked the idea of the Yira Republic, and they had believed in it, and they're fighting for it?
Kamara, these are the sentiments that we are struggling to cool down. because we could not see the rationale, we could not see the viability of these sentiments. And up to now I ask myself, where did they come from and how did they come about to have residence in the minds of our people and in the cultural institution? Spoiled everything.
Actually, some people thought that if the young boys there could stand their ground for 3 or 4 days, the United Nations would declare them a new republic.
Those were the rumors.
You know that was there.
Those were the rumors. Kamara, what do I tell you?
High up in the structure.
Me and Hobo Kabyanga, who's now the minister, ICT, Minister of Information, and
your neighbor, Kabyanga, yes?
Your friend.
He's my friend, yes.
We were caught up in that thing. We saw those sentiments of the Yera state residing in our cultural institution. If you met the elders, they will say, but where have they come from? We also don't know. Chimanzaga did not know. Kabyanga did not know. We only regret that maybe we did not have time to educate our people.
All right, so when we think about normal times returning, and of course your brother, the king, he can't go to Kasese now, but the moment he steps in Kasese, he's a likable person. People adore him, he's their king. Millions of people will travel, including even from the Congo, and come to Kasese, and that could be another issue. Because definitely the people will gather, and will gather in millions.
Yes, they will gather. That's why I proposed that things have happened. Let us open up a new chapter. For us in the kingdom, we own up. And also government, they made some mistakes. Let's also government, they own up. We open up a new chapter and move forward. And instead of destroying these grandchildren of Handika, let us find a way to work with them to develop the area. Maybe. Because we are stuck with them. Should we go to Kasese now? It will be a crowd.
You know, you've had a problem yourselves because in Bugandera there, I remember there's that ancestral ground where actually the other people also didn't want you there.
Of course, it was a hurdle.
So you are in a place, you're also in Bundubujo on a contested place.
But if people had understood the issues of cultural restitution, it wouldn't have been a contested place.
At one point it was being guarded by the military.
And the military destroyed it. In fact, they could not allow me to go there. I had to negotiate. I had to negotiate with the communities there, with our people there, with the central government, with the local government, and until everyone understood that this is the home of the people. It cannot be a contested ground, and that's how I live there now. But all in all, it is our not to understand the issues of cultural institutions. A cultural institution cannot be boxed into boundary. I continue saying this. It can't.
Okay. So with all respect, you are still a young man. You still have, with all respect, you're still a young man.
I still have energy, but
you can still offer leadership for many years to come. What is this thing that you would want Ugandans to hear, and specifically the people in Bugandera and the Renzori, as we conclude our discussion?
As we conclude, I want the people of Renzori, people of Bugandera, to hear me clearly. That we have been in a conflict for quite a long time. Personally, I was born in the mountain in a conflict, at the heart of a conflict. I wouldn't love to see my children. Some of them have finished degrees. Some of them are joining the university. To go in the same conflict process that I went through. We want a peaceful Renzori at any cost, no matter what. No matter the angers we have, no matter the problems we have, we should work towards making Renzori a better place for us to live in.
There are those listening to you, and they look at you as the chief prince of the Renzururu kingdom, and they want to hear from you because they want to know, where is their king?
The king is in his residence in Muyenga. The issues for which he was brought to his residence are not yet fully resolved.
What will it take?
I don't know how long it will take. But my faith tells me, my belief tells me that the issues will be at one time resolved. The most important thing is to make sure that there is no repeat of what happened in the Renzori sub-region.
Honorable Christopher Kibanzanga.
Yes, come on.
Thank you so much for having given us your time.
You're welcome.
And we have learned so many things from you. You have added value to our understanding of the region. And that brings us to the end of tonight's edition of On the Spot. Join us again next week, same station, same time.